Hi everyone, and again, welcome to a new Vane devlog. This one coincides with our 6th update coming out, which is downloadable now on Steam for free. It's been about 6 months since our last update, which is actually a really long time, but now with the engine bugs and issues that were blocking us fixed, we're getting back into the swing of things. We're also going to start separating devlogs and update videos. In the past, devlogs sort of indicated a game update, but it was really weird spending months without any updates and then having devlog 6 come out in between updates. So instead you'll see regular devlogs coming out and a shorter, higher level update summary video every time we release a Vane update. Anyways, let's get into it. We've added some new item container optimizations. This should allow containers to hypothetically have thousands or tens of thousands of items in them without lag. Will there ever be a container with that many items in it? Probably not. But when you think about the entire world of Vane, there are lots of containers, so it'll still improve performance. We've modified how maps work. If you write something on the map or mark a location, it saves to that map specifically, so you can write on maps and other players can read it if they steal that map from you. We've added a new 870 weapon mesh. Visuals are still pretty low priority for us, but it's a gradual thing. We've added the ability to move furniture. This costs tiredness for your character and increases their strength and vitality stats depending on the mass of the object and the world's gravity. The higher your strength, the further you can move furniture at a time, and the higher your vitality, the less tiredness it costs to move. You can also move items that you've placed down. We've started experimenting with geometry collections for destroying furniture. These let us crumble furniture when they're destroyed by players. We plan on adding this to most, if not all, furniture. In Devlog 6, we mentioned we'd scaled the world down from 14.5 kilometers squared to 8 kilometers squared. But I'm happy to say that we've solved the issue we were having and we're back up to 14.5 by 14.5 kilometers. This puts the game at a combined 210 square kilometers, which is about the size of World of Warcraft. We definitely won't fill up the entire world space, and there will be vast amounts of forests for long-term survivalist players, but I think having the world be that large adds a feeling of depth and adventure to it all. Azzy has put in work revamping and future-proofing the sandbox map. The farm now has a more reasonable layout, and enough space for all the future gameplay features that we're adding in. It now has areas for hunting and fishing, vehicle maintenance, and more. Check it out when you have a chance. We've added the framework for using fertilizer when farming. You can pour putrid water onto crops to increase the yield and hardiness of the crops. You can find putrid water anywhere that has wastewater. In the future, we have plans for actual chemical fertilizer as well as composting systems. We've added weather debugging tools and admin menu features. Server admins, or people playing in single player, can change and preview the weather to their heart's content. We've added a new screen space fog scattering shader to the game. This is the effect of slightly blurring objects through thick fog. It adds a little bit of creepiness and, in my opinion, looks great. Wind has been added to the weather system. This causes grass and trees to shake and causes precipitation to blow in a direction. It unifies some of the effects that we had previously and keeps the world looking consistent. We've also made some changes to how rain looks. The ground now has puddles with raindrops accumulate, and the rain effect on windows has been fixed to align properly. There's still work that can be done on the system, but I'm happy with it for now. We've layered up some stats. When over-encumbered, walking will cause your character to gain strength. We've implemented the sneak stat, which has the AI less likely to see or notice you, and the driving stat, which affects vehicle handling performance. We've also added a note in the character creation menu to stats that aren't wired up yet, just for clarity. It now costs tiredness to climb or vault over ledges and fences. We've developed an automorph system. It's a server option, so server operators can configure this, but essentially your character's physical appearance reflects their stats. If they have a very high strength skill, the character appears muscular, and if they're starving most of the time, they will start to lose weight. We've also improved the character creation UI by moving the physical and appearance related parts into their own tabs. This update, we've sunk a ton of time into vehicles. With such an expansive map, they're going to be an important part of gameplay for many players. With Devlog 6, we implemented the basics of how vehicles control and move, although in this update we did heavily change how vehicles handle and grip. Now with Devlog 7, we wanted to flesh out the guts of operating and maintaining vehicles. Vehicles now have parts, engine parts, brake systems, headlights, wheels, etc. These can be removed and replaced by the player if the player has the appropriate tools. They have varying levels of wear and tear and take damage over time. The damage on vehicle components will directly affect the vehicle's handling and performance. We've added a pickup truck and sedan to complement the sports car we use for testing. We've also implemented glove box, trunk, and truck bed inventories that you can loot. We've also added horns to vehicles which attract zombies from far away. High beams have also been added to the vehicle headlight system, as well as a keybind, default G, to switch between the settings. Vehicles now save their state. Before, they were temporary, but now they persist anywhere on the map. We've also added them to the current Champlain Valley map. We mentioned in Devlog 6 that we're redoing the Champlain Valley map. That's still work in progress, but you guys do need somewhere to play in the meantime. Instead of flipping with force, we've changed fixing flipped over vehicles to a much simpler system. It's about preventing frustration here. We've improved the car radio UI to show what's currently playing. Vehicles can be damaged. Running into players, zombies, buildings, and foliage will damage the car's internals. Damage affects the individual parts described earlier, and if you wreck your battery or engine, the car won't start. If the damage is explosive in nature, and the vehicle has gas in the tank, the vehicle has a chance of exploding. Damaging the vehicle will also damage people inside them, like drivers and passengers, depending on the force of the damage, so be careful when driving. You can also damage vehicles in ways you might expect, like shooting it or smashing it. We've implemented a novel system we call Emotion AI. NPCs can think for themselves about how to react at certain emotional stimuli, and select what they want to do based on their memory. It's still being worked on, but it should yield some really smart AI decisions. NPCs will be able to hold grudges, get afraid at loud noises, listen to gossip, get annoyed if you start a fistfight with them, be nervous around excessively strong characters, etc. All based on a personality we programmed for them. I'm excited to show more of this off when it gets there. NPCs can now use guns, sort of. We took the randomly generated raiders out of the game because they were doing more harm than good, and I'd like them to be a lot smarter by the time we add them back in. Finally, we did some work on NPC dialogue UI. You can now see the conversation up to the current dialogue choice, similar to some other RPGs like Disco Elysium, and can have dialogue choices based on character stats, uniquenesses, occupations, etc. We've switched to a new online backend that removes the need to port forward. Players running Vane can host their own server and have it show up in the server browser without any configuration needed. The start menu has options where you can specify server options, like the server name. We've also added a password system for players that are looking more to just play with friends or a small community. We've also fixed a couple visual bugs in multiplayer, like not being able to look around as passengers in vehicles, and some clothing item problems that we didn't have the ability to see prior to multiplayer testing. Finally, I'd like to talk about some random smaller things that we've worked on. We've added an ADS sensitivity option to the settings menu. When scoped in, it's often the case that default mouse sensitivity is too high, so this rectifies that. There's also a reset key bindings button in the settings menu. Both of these were community requests, and if you have any similar requests, they're usually really easy for us to implement, so please leave us a comment. We've improved the construction placement UI to show what specific error is occurring if you're blocked from building in a specific location. Also, fences that you build will now sink down into the landscape instead of floating. We've updated the inventory searching UI. It now opens immediately with a timer. We've also heard suggestions to clone Tarkov-style loot revealing itself over time, and we're on the fence with it, but you never know. We've also added the ability to close the loot menu by pressing the search key again. We added a new help tutorial. This has some tips for features people were having issues with. For example, how to cook food or maintain a vehicle. It's bare bones, but we look forward to answering some questions and issues there. We've changed how melee weapons work. Instead of not being able to punch or swing your weapon when tired, you can just swing it slower, which should alleviate some frustrations with it. We've added a /stuck command, which will respawn you. This is pretty abusable in multiplayer, so it's single player only for now. Usable stuff with no options available can now give you hints if you don't have the required tools, like mining loads or graves. You can now double-click equipable items like flashlights or radios to equip and unequip them from the inventory menu. We've added a visual bar to conditions on the HUD. Before, the only way to tell how severe a condition is was by reading the percentage number. Now it's way more visual and should alert you to important issues faster. We've added a news section to the main menu. Right now, the way that we let people know about updates is using Steam News, our Discord server, and this YouTube channel. This way, anyone that opens the game but doesn't follow us on social media will still be able to see if there are any new updates. We've done an overall pass on the UI. Fonts, icons, and design considerations have been unified. All fonts should now be consistent and allow for more space. We've also done a ton of small performance changes like disabling nanite and fixing some particle effects, which have boosted game performance quite a lot. So that's all we have for Devlog 7. In the intro of this video, I mentioned we're going to be splitting up devlogs and updates, with devlogs being more internal, technical, and lengthy, whereas update summaries will be shorter and more high level. The update summary for Vane 0.006 will be out shortly after this devlog if nothing goes wrong. Either way, thanks for watching. Join the Discord server and be sure to wishlist Vane on Steam if you haven't. The links for those are in the description. In the meantime, we'll see you on the next one.